Hi, my name is Carrie Morgan, and this is today's blog episode for video. I hope you enjoy it. I thought a great topic that I haven't covered in a long time might be to talk about stock photography and what you can use it for, what you can't use it for, and what requires different types of licensing. Some of the stock photography sites that I like to use quite a bit are iStock Photos, something called Dollar Photo Club, and Deposit Photos, which are much less expensive. So if I don't have a big client budget or something like that to spend, then those are two wonderful alternatives. But there are a lot of things related to stock photography that people aren't aware of. Like, can you use it in a blog post? Can you use it in a magazine? What can you do with it? Is it okay to buy a vector image that you like and use part of it in a logo? Things like that. So let's kind of cover these topics one at a time, if that sounds good. Hopefully I won't forget the major ones. Let's start with logos, because I'm in a logo project right now, so it's a little bit top of mind for me. And I'm kind of surprised by some of the questions the graphic designer that I'm working with is asking me, because she emailed me today and asked if I could provide her with some vector art to use in this logo design. And it's a great topic because most people aren't aware of it. But when you buy stock photography, it's so important to look at the license that comes along with it and make sure that you're buying the right license and that you're using that piece of stock photography or illustration in a way that is acceptable to the source you bought it from. Otherwise, you can have some pretty severe legal penalties that pop up that are very nasty surprises, so we don't like those. As far as logos go, most licensing agreements won't let you use it in a logo or in anything that's trademarked, because the person that created that original piece of artwork, whether it's an illustration or whatever, they own the rights to that, and they're assigning the rights to whoever they're allowing to sell it for them. And that photography site or the place that you're purchasing this thing from has very specific requirements what you can do and can't do, and anything that's trademarkable, you're saying, I own the legal rights to this, it belongs to me, I can do whatever I want with it. And that's not the case for anything that you buy that's a stock purchase. When you buy a piece of stock photography, you're getting a very limited amount of rights with that, and oftentimes it's for a single use or a single piece of content. So when you buy that photography, take a look at the agreement that you're getting and make sure that it's the right one. And I'll use iStock Photos as a great example. They specifically say in their licensing rights that you cannot use it in a logo or trademarked item. You can use it in commercial purposes, but there's a different license for that called their extended license versus the standard one that says, okay, you can use it, in a piece of collateral that you're creating or on a blog post or what have you. That's just the normal licensing right that comes along with that. But if you are using it in a book, for example, or a record album cover or something that you are directly selling, or maybe a poster that's for sale, that's a completely different thing because you're making profit off of it. So the license is often much more expensive. And it can be based on number of impressions either, or number of copies sold. And then it tiers up to another level yet again. And it's to make sure that the artist that created that piece of photography or that piece of, video or illustration is earning, I guess, a fair market share of what that piece is worth based on your use. So blogs are fine for a standard license. And one of the questions that I had last year that I actually emailed iStock for to make sure that the rights were very clear was, if I use a piece of purchased stock photography in a blog post, and then that blog post is syndicated out to multiple sources, am I responsible for that? Does that change the licensing rights that come along with that photo? And they said no, as long as you've purchased that stock photography, it was originally on your blog post for the person that purchased it. If it's syndicated out and it's not changed, you don't even have to worry about that. It's just part and parcel of the same thing, and they're not going to come after you for additional licensing. If you sell your content, though, say you're a website like Next Avenue is a great example. They have a blog and then they turn around and they sell those blog posts to healthcare companies. It's a part of their revenue. Those are different licensing rights for those stock photography pieces that they run in their blog post, and it's their responsibility. But something a client should confirm with them too, that when you use a purchased blog post and you're running that photography, that you're protected by that, so that you're not putting yourself in some legal danger. Definitely something you should confer with them. If you're not sure, you might reach out to the original source of the stock photography and even confirm with them. That's a great way to protect yourself. Even better yet is to not use whatever photography is is packaged with that if they can't give you something in writing saying, yes, we've bought the appropriate licensing rights and you're protected. And then I would just remove it and supply your own. Preferably your own that you've created, not just your own that you purchased on a stock photography. But you want to be really careful there. But the logo question is really interesting too, I think, because a lot of designers now, especially the ones you see on like Fiverr and some of these crowdsourcing sites where logos are, super, super cheap. There's a reason they're cheap, and that can be because they're grabbing free icon art online, for example, and turning around and selling that to you, or they're purchasing a piece of vector art and using that in your illustration. And you should know that if that happens, you're not protected. Just because you bought it in good faith from that graphic designer doesn't necessarily mean that the person that created that artwork can't come directly after you for damages. So something to really be careful of. I had an experience recently on Fiverr where I just... I bought a gig where $5, gotta love that. And I just needed a very simple icon drawn. And I stated in the gig when I purchased it, please make sure this is something original because I want to use it on my website. And they sent me something, looked good, but then I did an image search and I found that exact same icon for free in just this bundled free download. And so I circled back to that person. I'm like, hey, this isn't acceptable. You sold me something that is... free downloadable artwork, but not only that, if it's something that I wanted to be able to have trademarked, that's yet another problem. So it needs to be an original design. So something to protect yourself of. And just because you're using a graphic designer that has wonderful quality work and maybe you've worked with them before, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're very experienced in the whole licensing thing. And if there's ever any doubt, always, always, always do what protects yourself, because they may or may not know, and you can't really assume that they know that they can't sell you something that's just repurposed like that or pulled from a piece of vector art. So really protect yourself there. It's so important. One other licensing right issue that's important, I think, in the public relations field is that of using logoed images. So if you're on a stock photography site and maybe you search for a logo or some kind of photo related to Coca-Cola or any kind of trademarked brand, you'll notice that it comes up and it says editorial use only. And what that means basically is that they have very specific credit requirements. iStock, for example, requires that you use the copyright symbol and then iStock.com / and the name of the member. But everybody's different. And editorial purpose means basically that you can use it. If you buy the standard license, you can use that image in your blog or in a newspaper or other editorial opinion-based source. But you have to be careful, I think, too, because you want to make sure that you're abiding by whatever credit requirements that they're stating. Otherwise, just because it says for editorial use only and you use it in your blog, if you're not following their requirements, you're still putting yourself in danger of some kind of legal action. So you want to just be really careful. And celebrity photos, those are often for editorial use only. So just be careful and protect yourself and read that licensing agreement. There's a couple of places you can usually find it on a stock photography site. Sometimes it's in the footer. And it'll say something like licensing or terms of use or something like that. And if you're pulling something on, let's see, a free icon site or maybe something like Flickr where somebody's uploaded, or Creative Commons, those all have licensing rights and terms of use on there too. So it's not just the paid sites where you buy stock photography, illustration, and video or music, but the freebie sites too. They usually have some kind of disclaimer and rights agreement on there, and you just want to make sure that you abide by those and that you understand what they are. It's very important.